Most people move through life the way a beginner moves through chess. They look at what is directly in front of them. They react to whatever was just placed on the board. They make the move that feels right in this moment, and they are surprised every single time when that move costs them 3 moves later. This is not a failure of intelligence. It is a failure of architecture. The way most people think was never built for strategy, it was built for survival, for responding fast, moving fast, deciding fast, and in a world that rewards whoever reacts quickest, that works until it doesn't. Because at a certain level of competition in your career, your relationships, your own internal development, speed stops being the advantage, depth becomes the advantage. The ability to sit with a situation, trace its consequences forward in time, and move not from what feels right now, but from what positions you better later. That is the chessboard mindset, and almost nobody has it by default. To understand why thinking ahead is so rare, you need to understand something about how your brain actually operates. In 2011, Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman published a book called Thinking, Fast and Slow. His core argument was this: the human mind runs on 2 systems. System 1 is fast, instinctive, emotional, automatic. System 2 is slow, deliberate, analytical, effortful. Here's the problem. System 1 is running almost all the time. It is making snap judgments about people before you have spoken a word to them. It is pulling you toward the comfortable decision, the familiar path, the move that feels safe. System 2, the part capable of actual strategic thinking, is expensive. It requires focus, energy, and deliberate effort, and your brain, being efficient by design, avoids using it whenever possible. This means that most of your decisions, the ones you made today, the ones you will make tomorrow, were not actually decisions. They were System 1 responses dressed up as choices, fast, automatic, and completely unable to see 3 moves ahead. You were not thinking, you were reacting and calling it thinking. Here's what separates the people who are genuinely ahead from the people who are merely busy. It is not that they are smarter. It is not that they have more information. It is that they have learned to deliberately activate the slow system, not for every decision, but for the ones that compound. They have built a mental habit of tracing consequences forward, of asking not just what does this get me now, but what does this make possible or impossible later. Here's what separates the people who are genuinely ahead from the people who are merely busy. It is not that they are smarter. It is not that they have more information. It is that they have learned to deliberately activate the slow system, not for every decision, but for the ones that compound. They have built a mental habit of tracing consequences forward, of asking not just what does this get me now, but what does this make possible or impossible later. Robert Greene, in the 48 Laws of Power, made an observation that most people read past too quickly. He wrote that the strategist's first task is not to plan their own moves, it is to understand the board, the positions, the patterns, the incentives of every other piece in play. Most people skip this step entirely. They walk into situations thinking about what they want to do, without first mapping who else is in the room, what they want, what they fear, and how they are likely to move. They are playing chess while ignoring half the pieces on the board. The chessboard mindset starts here, not with your move, but with your read. Before you act in any situation that matters, you need to answer 3 questions. What does each person involved actually want? Not what they say they want, but what they are behaving as if they want. What are they afraid of losing? And most importantly, what will they do if I move in this direction? These are not paranoid questions. They are structural ones. The person who can answer them accurately before they act is not manipulating anyone. They are simply playing the game at a higher resolution than everyone else. Strategy is not about predicting the future. It is about reducing the number of futures that can surprise you. So what does thinking 3 steps ahead actually look like in practice? Not in chess, in your actual life. It looks like this. Before any significant action, a conversation, a decision, a commitment, you run 3 questions in sequence. Move 1. What happens immediately if I do this? Most people stop here. This is where System 1 lives. Move 2. What does that outcome create? What new situation does it place me in? This is where most strategic thinking begins, and most people never get here because move 1 felt like enough. Move 3. From that new situation, what becomes available to me? 3 questions. Run them before you act. Not on every decision, you would never leave the house. But on the decisions that compound, the ones involving your time, your reputation, your relationships, your direction, those deserve move 3 thinking, and they almost never get it. Here's a simple example. You're offered an opportunity that pays well but pulls you away from the work you're actually trying to build. Move 1 thinking says, money, yes. Move 2 thinking says, but this positions me further from where I'm trying to go. Move 3 thinking says, and once I'm known for this, I will keep being offered this. Not what I actually want. The money was never the question. The positioning was. That is the difference between a reactive decision and a strategic one. The 3-move method works well for decisions you control, but most of the situations that actually define your trajectory involve other people, and people are not predictable the way a chessboard is, or are they? Kahneman's research showed that human behavior, while it feels random from the inside, follows deeply consistent patterns from the outside. We are all running the same system, one biases, the same fear responses, the same reward-seeking loops. The person who studies those patterns, who pays attention not just to what people say, but to what they consistently do under pressure, begins to develop something that looks from the outside like an almost eerie ability to predict behavior. It is not eerie. It is just data. You observe, you pattern match. You build a model of how this specific person behaves when they feel threatened, when they feel overlooked, when they feel validated. And then instead of reacting to what they just did, you respond to what you already knew they were going to do. This is not manipulation. This is precision. The chess player who studies their opponent's tendencies is not cheating. They are simply more prepared than the person who showed up expecting improvisation to be enough. Preparation at this level looks like intuition to everyone watching. I want to be direct about something before we close. The reason most people never develop this mindset is not that it is too complex. It is that thinking ahead requires you to sit with uncertainty instead of resolving it quickly. System 1 hates uncertainty. It would rather make a fast, wrong decision than hold a slow, uncomfortable question. Every time you make a reactive decision to escape that discomfort, every time you say yes before you have thought about what yes leads to, every time you move to relieve pressure instead of to create position, you're paying a tax. Not now. Later, in the form of situations you did not see coming, in options that closed before you realized they were open, in the slow accumulation of being slightly behind, never catastrophically, but consistently, in ways you cannot quite explain. The chessboard mindset is not a technique, it is a tolerance. A trained tolerance for holding a situation open long enough to see where it actually leads before you decide where to move. The person who can wait 1 more second than everyone else before reacting owns that room. This week, one exercise. Find a decision you're about to make. Something real, something that matters. Run the 3 moves. Write them down if you have to. What happens immediately, what that creates, what that opens or closes. Then sit with move 3 for at least 10 minutes before you decide anything. Most people will find that move 3 changes the decision entirely, or it confirms it, but now the confirmation is built on something solid instead of something fast. Either way, you're no longer reacting, you're playing. Everyone around you is 1 move ahead at best. That is the default. That is what System 1 produces when left alone. 3 moves is not genius. It is just discipline applied to the right moment, and in a room full of people reacting, that is more than enough.